Hey everybody, welcome to Mindset Monday. My name is Denise, Zack with Game Plan U today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we're trying this a fourth time, I think right now, Nick. You and I started this podcast yesterday, which is the actual Mindset Monday day, but we had a lot of technical difficulties. So I said, let's just defer and start fresh again on Tuesday, or actually on Wednesday, sorry. So here you are. And thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. My name's Denise, Zack, as you've said. If you've been here before, then you know that I'm diving into the 6 inches in between your ears to figure out how you show up to your day and how you deal with life and how you deal with challenges. I love people that are successful and doing great things, but I love even more finding out what kind of grit and resilience you have that makes you successful throughout your life and in your day. Because at the end of the day, we all are struggling with something. We all are dealing with difficult times. We're all dealing with difficult things. There are challenges going on outside of us all the time. Right now, we've got COVID. We've got, political issues. We've got, social issues. We've got mental health, issues really across the board that not just people in the United States are dealing with, but really people in the world are dealing with. And I feel like there's a lot of different challenges that people have as a result of those things, in addition to personal challenges. So I really like to talk about those things, dive into them, and learn more about them. So if you like this podcast, this is a great time to just subscribe and hear more as the weeks go on. But without further ado, I really want to introduce my guest today. His name is Nicholas Lord, and he is the co-founder and CEO of No Cap Sports. And he's had to make a pivot in his career over the last 6 months or so as a result of COVID, but also just as a result of seeing what's happening in the world of sports, especially with our college athletes and name, image, and likeness lawsuits and proceedings that are happening right now. So his business is based on helping athletes brand themselves, develop content, monetize their brand. And I'm really excited to bring him on today to talk a little bit about that, but more important to dive in a little bit into those 6 inches in between his ears. So Nick, I'm going to bring you up. Come on in.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So glad that you're here. So glad that we're finally connected.
Yeah, hopefully we can make this work after the 4th time.
My fingers are crossed. There are no guarantees, but we're going to do our best here. So can you tell us a little bit more about No Cap Sports, what you do, and how you pivoted with that, in the last 6-12 months, and what's going on for y'all now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually just graduated college this past spring from Gettysburg College.
Congrats.
During the coronavirus, so it was definitely a wild experience. I think it was like a 15-minute Zoom graduation. I actually missed it for the first time, so I had to watch the recording. So there's that. But yeah, so throughout college, growing up, I was always someone who loved thinking about new ideas, taking risks, trying new things. My first year of college was when I really started developing that sort of like entrepreneurial spirit. Started writing down all my ideas and how I could potentially execute on those ideas. I tried starting a couple businesses in college, actually, but with the school workload, basketball, mental health struggles I was working with, really pushed my focus away from those. As you know, it's when you're trying to make something successful, you kind of have to put all of your time into it. And then I started getting the passion back in terms of my entrepreneurial spirit towards the end of my senior year. And that was when the idea of No Cap started blooming. It actually started out as a recruiting platform. We called it Match U to connect athletes with college coaches, while also tying in some of the NIL concepts that had started to surface all over the internet. But once I started reading and learning more and more about this whole new market opportunity with name, image, and likeness, I put my full attention on that and changed the name to No Cap because I thought it would resonate really well with the market I was going after. And then from there, I started building out the team, really honing in on the vision, and where I wanted to go with the business. So the whole mission behind No Cap is to make the best in-class technology and resources accessible to all stakeholders in the NIL era. So there's a level playing field, and that every athlete, regardless of what school they go to, where they're from, can have the opportunity to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. And so we focus on 3 different areas. One being compliance. So we automate, document, monitor the entire compliance process for every deal that the athletes are making the jobs of all the compliance officers way easier. Otherwise, they would have tons of paperwork going across their desk every single day. Number two is financial literacy. So a lot of these kids, they've never been able to handle money like this. We're going to kind of walk them through that process, what to do with that money, how to invest it. And then the third is deal sourcing. So any sort of way an athlete can make money, we're able to source that deal through our platform and make sure they stay compliant the entire time. And then we're working on some pretty cool stuff to really empower athletes to use their influence to create social change in areas that they truly care about, which I'm pretty excited about. We're kind of working on that right now, so I'm not going to give too much away on that. But right now we have a senior team of 5, a few key other employees doing business development, sales, and then an engineering team of about 10 to 15, and then a pretty awesome advisory board that I've built over the past 6 months.
That's awesome. I mean, I just love the whole concept of it because of the NIL stuff that is coming out now. There are going to be a lot of athletes who want to take advantage of this, who want to be a part of it, and who will have no idea how to do it because their job is to be an athlete and to be a professional, right? And that's their focus. And to do what you're doing so comprehensively, I love that piece of it as well, because you're not just saying, hey, let's make money off of this athlete. We'll get his content and we'll just stick it out there. You're helping them with their brand and their reputation to monetize it, but you're also helping to teach them how to do it. And then you're taking care of some of the back end stuff for them, the stuff that they might not know about that could potentially later on get them into trouble or, just cause friction or challenge for them. And you're taking care of that, which I think is a really great service.
Yeah, absolutely. I was always very big on being able to provide everything to, the Power 5 schools. They're going to have those athletes that are making tons of money, but it's also the long tail end, the D3 athletes that have some influence in their communities, and D2. And, I just wanted to represent every sort of athlete and give them access to the same tools as those bigger time athletes as well.
Right. So across the board, giving everyone that kind of equal opportunity and chance to build their reputation across the board. I love that.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
good stuff. So it sounds like you got a great team behind you, around you, with you, right?
Yep.
And
yep.
How did you develop your team? How did you say, hey, you and I are going to co-found this, and I need you for my CTO, and how did you pull your team together?
It was an interesting process, how it all kind of formed out. I started the original idea with the whole recruiting thing started with my basketball coach in his office. And we were just kind of shooting ideas back and forth. And we came up with like the recruiting app type idea. And then one of my best friends from college, his name's Danny, who's no longer working with us anymore. He co-founded that original idea with me. And we were working on it for about 2 months. And then I started getting really passionate about NIL. And one of the advisors that I brought on, who his son actually played basketball with in college, set me up with this guy out in California who I had no idea about, but it turns out he built some of like the biggest companies out there, Zendesk and Beats Music and NerdWallet. He built those. He was the CTO there, and I didn't even know that going into the conversation. So when he told me that, I was automatically nervous. I didn't really know what to say. I was kind of starstruck, but he just like loved my enthusiasm, kind of my drive, my idea, and we kind of hit it off right from the beginning. And then him and I, his name's Stan, we just kind of been, we officially co-founded No Cap together, and we've been working on it ever since. And then about a month later, I had some people working for me as interns over the summer, and one of them introduced me to their director of compliance. That person went to Michigan, and the director of compliance in Michigan, I talked to him, kind of gave him a rundown of what I'm doing, and he got so passionate what I was doing that he ended up quitting his job to come on full time with me. It's actually official today that he's on full time, which is pretty sweet. I'm excited about that. But he was able to help us build like the entire compliance monitoring software, and really helped us kind of drive the vision of what people need in this upcoming era. And then the rest of the people just kind of came over time through secondary connections. It was just a lot of time me talking to people, showing them how passionate I was about where I think this could go, and was able to build out a pretty awesome team.
That's great. Surrounding yourself with people who have skills that you don't, but also have the same amount of passion that you have for what you're doing. It's a perfect match, right?
my goal going into this was to be the dumbest person on my team, and I think I'm achieving that. So.
I don't know. I mean, you're bringing some smart people on, but only a smart person would bring people on that have skills in those areas, right? So
True.
I think it's a perfect marriage because we have to have people around us that are just as passionate about what we're doing, but bring something different to the team. We
Yep.
can't have all the same
Absolutely.
people. Then you're lopsided. You're missing things. You're not as creative or comprehensive as you could be. And so, it sounds like you have a great team there. And
Absolutely.
you mentioned something a few moments ago, and the reason why I even found you was because of a link that or a post that you made on LinkedIn around a mental health issue, and you talked a little bit about that, struggling with that in college, and that kind of got in the way a little bit when you were thinking about doing some entrepreneurial stuff. And so I was just curious if you could tell us a little bit about that post that you made. What led you to post it? That can be a challenging thing. It's a professional website, right? But I think what you did was so courageous, but also so powerful and meaningful and needed. So what led you to do it? And then what was the reaction that you got? Because I think that was the really interesting part.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be probably good to start kind of from the beginning. So growing up, I was kind of like a big worrier, really hard on myself, cared way too much about what people thought about me, would overthink pretty much every situation. And when you have that kind of way of thinking, it really starts to catch up with you. So when I got to college and I was away from everything that I was used to, that's when I really started struggling with my mental health. Started going on all kinds of medication, and I pretty much just suffered in silence most of the time, keeping everything in my head. I guess I just thought that if I just kept pushing it down further and further, it would eventually go away. Turns out, worst possible thing you could ever do. I had some of the darkest moments of my life because that's the way I was handling the situation. Lost most of my motivation. Didn't really have any emotion a lot of the time. Pretty much just felt hopeless, to be honest with you. But some days I would literally skip all my classes, lay in bed, stare at the ceiling, and not do anything. And then one night when it got really, really bad, I decided to mention something about how I was feeling to someone that was close to. I wasn't really expecting much. And honestly, after just saying one or two things, I automatically started feeling a little better. And I realized that I did have the support. I did have the people around me. And there were actually people going through a lot of the same stuff I was. And it's kind of crazy the feeling you get when you tell someone something and they respond with, me too. It just makes you feel so much different about the situation and what you're going through. It's extremely comforting to know that you really aren't alone, and that you do have support. So until that point, I really started speaking up. I thought it was weak for feeling that way, but I realized it was just kind of the opposite of true. And when you're able to express how you truly feel, I think it's one of the most courageous things you can do, and it can even save your life or someone else's. So I wrote that post without many expectations, to kind of just put my thoughts out there on mental health and see if I could impact just one person in a positive light. Because one thing I've been realizing as I learn and grow in the real world, starting a business, it's not really about the accomplishments you have or how much money you make or what you can put on a resume. Those things are all great, of course, but it's really about the impact you have and the people around you, whether that's small or large. That can get you way, way further in life. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to be an entrepreneur, actually, because I feel like I can make the most impact that way. But after posting that, without really expecting much, the response I got was unbelievable. I was having people reach out to me from all over, people I knew, people I didn't know, tell me how much that post meant to them. Even had a few individuals tell me that when they saw it, that they were at the end and that kept them going, for at least for another day or so. So it was pretty inspiring, just kind of see how like a few words can just change someone's life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just hearing that story just gives me chills when you think about, for you probably weren't thinking about necessarily other people at the moment. I mean, yes, you had that idea that, maybe I can help someone, but really you don't know who you're speaking to when you put something out like that on social
Yep.
media. You have no idea who you're going to touch and who you're going to impact. And so the fact that you got those responses, I think is amazing. How many did you did you respond to everybody? I mean, you had a lot of people who made
Yeah,
comments.
I made it a priority to respond to everyone that at least said something to me. I had a ton of DMs, people that I actually didn't ever even met before, that were, saying how grateful they were that I posted something like that and that more people should start doing it. So that was just awesome to me. But I made it a priority to respond to as many people as I could,
Yeah,
from that.
love
So
that. And because a lot of people don't realize that people can struggle and we don't even understand what it is they're going through, but we don't even recognize it. A lot of times we
mhm.
don't recognize that someone is struggling. And did you, when you were struggling, when you were at your darkest place, were you in were you the one that kind of reached out to somebody? Or I know you talked a little bit about it, but how did it come where you actually got the help? Like, did you get up out of bed? Did someone say, "Hey, let's talk"? Like, what was that experience?
Yeah, there was a couple. One of them was my mom. She had noticed that I was not normal, and she brought it up to me, and that was the first person I mentioned something to. I've always been really close to my mom, so it was really hard for me to tell her something like that, and she was completely surprised. But yeah, it was. I would say my mom told a bunch of people started realizing that I wasn't really myself. There were a couple times where I would uh, skip all my classes. I'd have emails from my teachers, or I'd miss practice and have an email from my coach. Um, so I kind of figured at that point it was probably time to at least tell someone that I didn't feel okay, and that ended up being like the greatest thing I possibly could have done for myself.
Yeah. What kind of reactions did you get from people when you said that?
Um, a lot of the time it was just very like comforting reactions. Just a lot of like listening. When I told my mom, it was she just listened and let me talk, and that alone made me feel better. And I got a lot of I struggle with this too, and you're not alone. Like, I'm here to support you, and that really gave me motivation to kind of seek more help and try to get better.
It's awesome. Yeah, I think just being able to reach out, taking that first step,
Hmm.
can sometimes feel like the scariest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there?
I've oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, like, and since then I've come across a lot of people. A lot of my closest friends have struggled with different things like that, and suicide and whatnot. And having those conversations with people is really tough. And I understand how hard it is for um, you to bring up something like that. So I'm trying to find ways that I can really bring that kind of confidence up in someone, that they can feel okay talking to me or someone else about it.
Yeah. And what I found of just, being a therapist over the last 20 years is when you ask someone that question, usually it's a relief. If you ask someone, are you thinking about harming yourself? Are you thinking
Mhm.
about, hurting yourself or ending your life? It's usually a relief, even if they're not thinking about it, because they then on some level understand or get to a place where they know that you understand that
Mhm.
they're in a bad place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one of my good friends in college. I remember when I had first started talking a little bit about it. Every time I would see him, he'd be like, "How are you?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good." And then he'd be like, "No, like, how are you?" And then we
Mm,
like sit down and like talk for a while. So it's cool to it's very comforting to know that like people actually care and want to listen to your story, and they also are struggling with a lot of the same things you are too. So you
yeah.
can connect on that kind of level.
Absolutely. And I just love the fact that, what you're describing is the importance of relationships and being
Mhm.
connected. And that we are not, no man is an island. That is a critically important statement. We're not supposed to operate by ourselves. We are social beings. And the fact that you have people in your life that are helping you in that way, I think is
Mhm.
incredibly powerful and probably some unexpected support, people that maybe you weren't even thinking
Absolutely.
would be those people, right?
Yep, yep. And I think it's very you can transfer it right over to business as well. And that's one of the things I really push. Leading my company is everyone should be vulnerable. Everyone should have the right to say how they're feeling. So I take time each day, reaching out to them and making sure they're okay, they're happy with where they are, and what the next plan is. So I think that's really important in any organization to kind of push that aspect of mental health, vulnerability. And I think it just makes you closer as an organization and helps and sets you up better for success as well.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I think what you're doing is the future of business and organizations. You're bringing humanness to the workplace. You're bringing compassion and empathy to the workplace. You can't have something amazingly wonderful or amazingly difficult happen outside of the workplace and not impact you. I mean, you can compartmentalize and get through the day for sure, but that issue is there with you. For the good and the bad, and we should celebrate the good stuff, and we should support each other in the bad stuff. And I think that,
Absolutely.
Yeah, just bringing it all together. And I love the fact that you're doing that with your organization from the
I
get-go.
think just kind of like going through it a little bit myself helps me kind of realize the different actions and different things people say, where I could really tell that something's wrong, and that's when I really decided to kind of reach out. So when it's all about experience. So if you actually go through something like that, it makes it a lot easier. So.
Right. So kind of walk a mile in someone's shoes. You're able to kind of put yourself in their shoes and understand it, which I imagine might be hard for someone who has never struggled with a mental health issue or had someone in their life who struggled, and it may make it difficult. What would you say to a CEO or someone who's just not sure that that's going to work, or that that's going to make this organization weak, or people are going to be calling in sick left and right if I acknowledge that they are having emotional issues? How do you respond to something like that?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. It's the mindset that you think it's weak to step up and say something that the way you're feeling, or you're not feeling good about the way things are going in your life and your head. And I think that can really, if you hold those things in, that kind of holds you back from a lot of the other parts of the business as well. So if you're able to really express that and really kind of put that kind of culture in your organization, that other people in your organization can express how they're feeling, and you're all there for each other. I think that's extremely important for any CEO, to kind of just tap into those relationships that we talked about, because within an organization, relationships are also the most important thing, just like any other thing.
Relationships first.
Absolutely.
And the research is actually supporting all of that right now, that the more you support someone with their personal stuff inside of work, the more retention you have, the less absenteeism you have, the more loyalty you have, and the more contentment and collaboration you have in the workplace. So
absolutely,
it is, you're creating this culture within your organization now that will help you grow, I think, and be more successful than you probably would have been had you not incorporated that kind of culture into the workspace.
Yeah, I think doing it from the get-go and kind of just pointing out the obvious, and kind of laying that down right from the beginning has really helped us kind of skyrocket from where we could have been. We've only been together 6 months, and I feel like we've been together for 6 years, just because of talking about things, not just work every day, and stressing about it, but really kind of digging into everything else in your life going on.
Yeah, so. I love it. It just sounds like an awesome organization. I want to ask you, are there days now where you still struggle, and how do you do your self-care now? How do you take care of yourself now? How do you work through it?
Yeah, it definitely happens a good amount. It definitely helps that I have something that I'm just very, very passionate about, with No Cap, and I have people in my organization that are always very passionate about it as well. And we're always constantly talking about how excited we are. So that always keeps my vibes kind of pretty high. But I do wake up some mornings, not feeling too hot about myself or what's going on in my life. I think when I do that, it's the best way to handle it, that I've experienced is, just talking to the people that you're closest to, and call my mom or something in the morning, or call one of my best friends, and just kind of talk things out, kind of how I'm feeling, just a normal conversation. And I think that always helps me feel better. It's also, picking up different kinds of hobbies. Like, for example, like I started playing guitar. I played when I was younger. Guitar is something that makes me feel calm. And whenever I'm feeling, down a little bit, I just play guitar and I start feeling a little better. So it's like finding those things that, give you a little happiness in your life, even if it's just a very little thing, and going with that.
I love it. So having something you're passionate about, talking with people that you trust and are always on your side, and then
Mhm.
finding activities that fill you up and give you some sense of joy and contentment. Those are three,
Absolutely.
yeah, those are three awesome ways to take care of yourself, and every single day
Mhm.
doing something like that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the one thing I've been doing lately is I did this like self challenge kind of thing, just a bunch of different goals that I set for myself every day, that I try to accomplish. But one of them is reaching out to someone that's had a positive impact in your life, in the past couple of years or months or whatever, and kind of expressing that gratitude. And that's the responses you get from that are just uplifting in itself. And that's really helped me I try to do it every morning, and getting those responses just motivates me, for the rest of the day. So that's
I
also
love it.
something I do.
I love it. Gratitude is huge. It comes
Mhm.
back to you tenfold, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love it. I love what you're doing. I love your business, concept. I love how you're implementing it. I love the team that you've put together and really the focus that you have and the culture that you've created within your business. All of that stemming from a struggle that you had. So I think you're such an inspiration to people who think that, well, if I have depression or if I have anxiety, how can I be successful? I'm never going to be able to get out of my own way. And you are a perfect example of using, your passion to help you work through something and really building something wonderful as a result of it. So I want to thank you for that. I want to ask you a last question here. What advice would you give to someone who isn't sure, who thinks that they're going to get in their own way, who might not be able to take that next step forward because they have a mental health issue or because they're not feeling good enough right now? What advice would you give to them?
I would just say, accept it. Um, Once you can accept that, you're struggling and you've become okay with that, that's when you kind of get that confidence to reach out to someone. Definitely reach out to someone that you're close to first. Recommend, a very close friend, parent, whoever has made an impact on your life, and kind of see that response, because they're the people that are going to say that they support you most. So if you can find those people around you that would really support you and really support you, has supported you your whole life, but maybe not in that mental aspect, I think, saying something to them, could really change your life for the better. And then, um, in terms of, when you're struggling with mental health and stuff, it's usually you don't really have a lot of motivation, and I think you need to just find something that you feel you can make a difference with, whether it's big or small, and go after it. As soon as I started finding things that I was really passionate about, that was when my mental health started really changing. When I was really struggling, I didn't. Uh, I kind of just sat there and, didn't do anything and just stared at the ceiling, like I said. But when I really started thinking about, what I wanted to do and who I wanted to impact and how I could impact people, I think that's where like the passion comes from, and that's where you can really, start making a difference in your life and hopefully others too.
Absolutely. You talked about your mindset, right? Those 6 inches
Yeah.
in between the ears
Hmm.
and really developing thoughts that activate positive momentum, right?
Hmm.
And not getting
Yep.
stuck in negative thought patterns, which can happen a lot. Obviously, that's one of the symptoms of mental health issues. So
Yeah, it's
thank you.
extremely hard to get out of that kind of rabbit hole once you have like one or two thoughts, two negative thoughts, and then all of a sudden there's like 100 of them. So it's kind of just having that capacity to, say like this is enough, and um, maybe fill in like a positive one here and then, and see what happens from there.
I love it. And building those up, right? As
Hmm.
opposed to building up
Absolutely.
the negative ones. I love it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again so much for being here. Again, it's Nicholas Lord, and this is your email if people want to talk to you more, if they want to tune in and check out what you're doing with No Cap Sports, they can email you here. If they want to connect with you on LinkedIn, this is your LinkedIn address. And I just want to thank you again for being here. Really, really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time and your energy. If you like this podcast, if you want to hear more, please subscribe. Again, this is Mindset Monday with the Game Plan U community. I'm Denise Zack. If you want to get in touch with me, if you want to be a guest on this podcast, let me know. This is my email. If you want to check out more about Game Plan U, it is gameplanu.org. Thank you again, Nicholas. I'm just so honored that you're here, that you're willing to share your story and be a guest here. Have a great rest
Appreciate
of
you
your
having
week.
me.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.